welcome back, Commanders. We are back again with our Legend of the Stars qualifying tournament #1 coverage, and this time we're going to move on into round 2, where we're going to see Yudi taking on Morax. So, well, I know everyone likes to see Morax die. I don't know who's going to win this one. Well, we'll have to wait and see. So, we are of course doing Legend of the Stars, where there is a $500 prize. These qualifying tournaments feed into the main grand final, which is held at the end of the year. And we will be giving that prize away, as well as a big trophy to, well, what we decide is the greatest player of Forged Alliance Forever for 2018. So, without any further ado, let's watch Yudi taking on Morax. And we are away. So we are this time on Forbidden Pass version 4. We can see Yudi with a massive rating for global there on 2400, taking on the 1600 rating points of Morax. Now, of course, it doesn't always translate into 1 versus 1, but that gives us a pretty good indication of the skill level and the number of hours that these guys have put into the game. So we have Yudi in his nice pink color there. He's going to take Cybern for this match. We can see a first land factory, a whole smattering of power generators. In fact, just adjusting the number of gens there before he completes that build. And instead of a first or second air factory, he is going to opt for second land as well. So we'll see, well, no, he's going to move that around. He is really thinking hard about which way he wants to build this base out. In any case, that first engineer is out, and, well, he doesn't have a rally point from that. He's going to go out and start building mass extractors to the right there, so it seems like his build order is perhaps a little bit confused in this early stage of the game. His opponent is Morax, taking orange and the UEF factions. We can see from him he has got just a couple of Tech 1 power gens planned, and then a second air factory. Now that is very interesting, because the hydro is all of the way down here. That means he's not going to build it anytime soon, because it's just so far away, and just those 4 Tech 1 power gens, that's going to really struggle to power this initial build. So I think both these guys maybe forgot how to play. We'll see who's going to come out on top anyway, but this is interesting. We are probably going to see a shift up to a few more power gens, because that is 4. And is that... oh, look at the adjacency or lack of adjacency on that. These guys definitely forgot how to play. Okay, so we've got the air factory underway now, and that is very little power. Let's have a look at Morax's bar there and make sure he does not power stall. The only way he will not power stall with this is if he's forgotten to play so badly that he actually doesn't build anything else and manages to somehow survive on that miserable little amount of power that he is producing. But we can see there's a good stack of gens over here. Well, a slightly larger stack anyway, but we can see he's got 2 more planned to get that air factory underway. So he's going to make sure he's got that power situation under control. Alright, Morax is going to start moving that ACU out, and very interestingly, not following the established meta here, he's going to bring the ACU out, take this first mix out the front, and instead of scooting across to this part of the island, he is going to use an engineer to do that. So definitely swapping around the established meta for this map, and Morax is going to try his hand at a slightly different play. It could mean that he ends up with the ACU in the center down here to attack the ACU from Yudi, and that could play out interestingly. But as soon as Yudi sees that it's there, he's going to adjust his play and be able to push across this side of the map, because we are going to know that there's no ACU for him to push through. Alright, we've got the front hydro underway there from Yudi. That's going to bring his power up to a grand total of 240 per tick, which is a very nice place to be. That'll get his air factory up and running nicely, and then after that he's going to grab a couple more factories up the front for spam. They're going to get adjacency on that mix. Of course, when you have adjacency to a mix, it costs a little less to produce each unit that comes out of that factory, so it's a good thing to have. The only concession that you have to make is that you won't be able to get mass storages around it, so if you do upgrade it, it is not going to be quite as efficient. we've got a bit of a chase happening up here. We do have a Mech Marine up for Morax, making a nuisance of itself with a Mantis trying to chase it down, and another Mantis joining it, and they're going to run all the way to the coast by the looks of it, and Morax just trying to waste as many APMs and as much time as possible for Yudi so that he can get... Well, actually, he might even be able to pick up this engineer. That would be a fantastic pickup if he was to chance upon it. He knows there is a mass extractor there, but he doesn't have a radar with this Mech Marine, so he is going to miss it. It will be out of visual range, and that will be a miss for Morax. He won't be able to take out that mass extractor before he gets run down by those Mantis. But this is interesting. We've got a lot more spam coming across the map for Yudi. He has made his way all the way up to the top corner just about. And what do we see for Morax in terms of expansion? Well, not a heck of a lot. In terms of the scoreboard, though, there's very little in it. Just a single mass extractor with, well, what is happening to Yudi's power situation there? Dropped down for a second. Is there a bomber? Yes, it was. That was a successful bombing run from that bomber that we saw hovering around. It did manage to take out a few of these power gens here, knocking the wind out of the energy sails a little bit for Yudi, and he is forced to rebuild those to get his power situation back on track. But that doesn't negate the fact that the expansion is awfully at risk across this side of the map here for Morax. He just has the single engineer, and when push comes to shove, these Mantis, well, this single lone Mantis is going to easily be able to push through that engineer and stop that expansion in its tracks. And we are also seeing the ACU continuing to move up, and that is exactly the plan. We can see he's going right down to this point here, and Yudi will have to fight against an ACU at this expansion, and he's not going to be expecting that. He will be expecting the ACU for Morax to be across this side, and it looks like the response to that vulnerability that Morax will have is to build PD. Now that's not necessarily a good idea, because a single artillery from Yudi will be able to defeat that. So as soon as Yudi has an idea that that side is vacant, it's not going to take too much for him to smack it out of his way and take all of that eco for himself. Alright, we've got a nice drop there from Yudi. He's not forgotten about the engines, which is always a nice touch. He's going to get those 4 mass extractors and at least a couple of land factories down. That is going to give him a pretty secure position to be able to spam across here. The only possible counter is this thin stream of units. Now, it is awfully thin. Not a lot of guys coming across the map there. There is a mix of strikers and Mech Marines. That is a very interesting choice to include Mech Marines in your spam, but, well, each to his own, and Morax is definitely trying something different from the established meta. That is for certain here, but he is outnumbered on the front, and we can see that the units there from Yudi are just pushing through, quickly eating the HP on those strikers there for Morax, and he is going to find himself very, very quickly unable to defend that unless he can get a bit more of the spam, and he's got a few more units rolling in, but really not enough to counter the line that is coming up from Yudi. And we do have a engineer thinking about dropping, but actually just seeing the Mech Marine there and thinking twice about it. So Yudi opting to come across, and that is a very nice touch. Picking up an extra Mantis, that is very, very pleasant to see. And he's going to drop the Mantis there as well as the engineer so that he can just finish off that Mech Marine and take that expansion for himself. Now we've got Yudi, and we can see where all those tanks are going from. Instead of going to the top left, he has diverted them to the center here to aid the ACU, and that's actually going to push Yudi out. But we can see as soon as Yudi hit that, he's dedicated all of these units to just come in and smash this expansion. So as soon as Yudi was aware that there was nothing there to stop him, he is going to go all in. But he just found there was a point defense, and that was all of part of Morax's master plan to build point defense. So we will see out of one of these factories, probably this factory over here, we're going to see some artillery popping out any second now, and that's going to be dedicated to wiping that expansion off the map. What is this? No, it almost looked like there was an early T2 upgrade, but it was actually just 2 Mantis side by side. That is quite alright, because Yudi managing to establish pretty good control of this map with the T1 spam that he is going for. And no, that is just an idle factory, so no upgrades there for him as yet. Now we can see Morax taking this expansion here, so wow, this is just completely crazy and, well, wildly varying from that meta. He's going to take that ACU, build the expansion, and try to conquer as much else as he can. But these units back here just stopping and pausing and waiting for that artillery to come in. And yes, here we go. The artillery is on its way in. We can see just a single one of those because he knows that there is nothing else required. That single artillery just needs to get in place to take down the point defense. Alright, Morax running over the top of the offensive units there from Yudi. He is going to secure that area of the expansion. That is quite good for the time being, at least. He does have some engineers reasonably close by as well, which can come in and build that. So how is that looking on the scoreboard? Well, we've got 49 to 43. So Morax running off that extra 4 mass extractors that he's got with his AC in the center here. And we can see that he's running in, and that's very interesting. He's actually run in before he's used the artillery to finish off the point defense, so he's decided it's not worth the wait, and now he's going to push in, especially with the ACU assistance. That is going to finish the job. There we go. So that is going to be an interesting switch up, and Yudi now owns this part of the map while Morax owning this section over here. Morax still needing to bolster the numbers on this left-hand side, though. He looks like he would easily lose to a concerted push here from Yudi, especially if Yudi decides to redirect all of these Mantis that have just finished dismantling that part of the base, and if he sends them towards the north, that will give him what he needs to push through. So Morax is definitely sending more to try to counter that threat on the left-hand side, but he is backing right up into here. He does have a point defense. He's trying to throw down a factory, which is not adjacent for an interesting reason that we won't go into. And he's going to try and hold that against Yudi's push here. Now, Yudi does have some radar in the mix, so he will be aware of the units that are floating around the immediate vicinity, and he will be able to see that point defense. He does, though, have a Medusa in the mix, well, actually a couple of Medusas, and as long as those guys being at the back don't get picked off by the strikers coming around behind them, they will be able to take out that point defense. But it looks like Morax is trying to pincer those units from Yudi, and it may actually just work. Well, as long as he brings them all in, it will work. Right now, he's going to face them off in 2 separate groups and lose both times if he doesn't get his coordination a little bit more in time. Okay, we've got more action down the bottom right as well, where these guys facing off, but both of them deciding to pull back and stop wasting any more troops. We can see a few wrecks laid down there, but no significant wreck fields for either party. But what is this? What is the plan here? Well, we have got a sneaky drop. No, a lack of a drop. There we go. He's being redirected up to the plateau where there are some engineers. The interceptors come in to try and prevent it. They are a little bit too late, though. The transport goes down, but the Mantis are away. They will take out all the engineers that are in the vicinity. They're going to walk all the way through, and there is not a lot to stop them until they get a bit closer to the unit production, where there are a few strikers coming down. But we have actually seen a T2 switch up here for Morax, so we can see 3 pillars in a group there, and he's actually going very, very high on the investment in Tech 2 factories. We can see there is a HQ and 2 support factories all around this hydro. That's going to be able to produce a decent chunk of Tech 2 units at a cost. Well, at a cost of unit count for the time being, which he is very, very badly suffering from on this left-hand side, where he is being pushed back very, very concertedly by Yudi. There are way too many units there, too many Mantis for him to contend with, and he's going to have to get some of those pillars. We can see 3 next pillars out of those factories are going to head towards the north, but I don't think it's going to be in time to save that expansion, unless, of course, these guys can pull a very, very valiant effort out, and those NGs almost getting a point defense down, but they're going to go poof before they manage to get there. So Morax is going to come right back into the top of this little plateau. He's going to try and use that point defense to maximum advantage, and if he can pull it off, he will get those pillars up there, and that will give him a good amount of firepower, but he just has to survive. They are now cut off from the rest of the base, and it is a fight to the death. It's not looking too great for Morax, apart from that point defense, which is unfortunately under Medusa fire. Every time one of those lands, it's a big chunk of HP and a stun, so not good at all for him. So now just down to the 3 strikers. They are out of there. So it will now be a case of trying to recover that lost ground with these pillars that are coming in. He'll probably need to try and transport in a few engineers as well to rebuild, because he is now lacking in eco just the 77 over there to Yudi to only 55 for Morax. So it is starting to take his toll on the eco. It looks like those Mantis are just going to hang out up the top here and wait for the engineers to come in to try and rebuild, but that is not what's coming. There are pillars coming, so I'm not sure if Yudi is aware of that T2 just as yet, because I don't think they've hit the front lines. No, we still haven't seen any Tech 2 on the front lines, but surely he will, because he is scouting. He's got a scout overhead, and he's got eyes on that particular support factory there, which is producing hover tanks. Of course he's producing hover tanks so that he can get across the water and try and do some damage, but that's exactly the same plan as what Yudi has, because Yudi's put together a whole bunch of Wagners and they are rolling across trying to do some damage. Unfortunately for them, there are Tech 1 point defense ready and waiting for them. So Yudi just thinking twice about that. He's going to take out the mass extractor because he does have the range to do it, but he is a bit stuck now and as to what to do with those Wagners, and it looks like he's actually going to redirect them up the river there and try and pop them out at some nice place where they can do a whole lot of damage, which is exactly what Morax is trying to do. Unfortunately, Yudi has countered that with a point defense right in the middle there, so very nicely placed point defense there for Yudi, keeping that assault at bay. We've got a push now from Morax on the right hand side, but what is this? His unit formations are all out of whack, and he is rolling them in just about single file, and they are taking an absolute beating. The only saving grace will be the HP on those pillars, because there are a few pillars in that mix, and they are worth quite a good number of Mantis each. As long as they can stay alive, we can see this guy taking an awful lot of fire before he eventually goes down, and there are still a few more pillars up here waiting, but the HCU is in the mix as well. So there was an awful lot of HP there that Morax did not use to push his way through that and into the expansion, because if he could knock some of these mass extractors out, that is going to help him in the eco game to try and catch up. But what is this? Yudi has just got all these Tech 1 point defense all over the place. We've got one there, we've got one here. Everywhere where units may pop up and try and cause all sorts of damage, there is a point defense ready and waiting for them. So that is a very large investment for Yudi, but with the eco advantage he has, it is well worth it at stopping whatever Morax is trying to pull in terms of sneaky strategies out. And we can see that's exactly what's happening here. The tanks are popping up. They are getting smacked by the Tech 1 PD. How are they going to fare? Well, the wall's taking an awful lot of fire there for that PD. We can see a massive amount of damage being done to them, but that's not really going to work. And with a bit of support coming in from Yudi's tanks, that is the end of that push. Just a single Riptide remaining. He's going to go off down the river and try and find some juicier targets. We can actually see there is a gun upgrade going on down here for Morax, so he's going to think very seriously about pushing across from the right-hand corner, but he does want to get a few more units, I suspect, in support, because he only has a couple of pillars left. Yeah, there's 3, 4, oh no, there's 6 pillars in there. That's a good number against the number of Mantis that he is facing off against, but he really could do with a couple of units of mobile artillery to be able to push through those point defenses. We've got a couple more. We got rhinos. No, they are Wagners. They didn't come around the land. They went through the water, and they are causing all sorts of nuisance for Morax on this right-hand side there. It's causing him to have to respond. There are a few pillars in there that are going to come and dismantle that, and it's just going to cost him a couple of Tech 1 mass extractors. We can see a few vacant points there, which Morax will need to rebuild now to try and catch up, but he's still just languishing on 53 mass per tick. That is really not getting him anywhere. He is not making any headway in the eco game, whereas his opponent Yudi up to 103. So Yudi just continuing. We're going to probably find a whole lot of upgrades back here, and even some of these outlying mixes are going to be upgraded as well, somewhere around the place where, yeah, up here, this is where they are. So this is where Yudi is focusing a lot of his attention, and that's bringing him up well over the 100 mark per tick for mass. And if we look at total mass, we've got 52k for Yudi to only 41 for Morax. So that is starting to add up to a pretty serious differential, and unless Morax can make up for that somehow, it's not really going to go his way. Morax does have a whole lot of pillars up here. He probably wants to organize those a little bit better and make sure the formation is superior, and he will have a chance of pushing through all of these units. But there are actually a lot of Tech 2 in the mix as well, and those are rhinos this time, not Wagners. So those guys are going to have a lot of HP and quite a lot of firepower, they are going to be a good match for the pillars. We can see them just eating through that lead pillar's HP, and it's going to go down very, very quickly. The Rhino's not struggling on this terrain. Sometimes you will get the low cannons of those things being a problem, but not this time around, and the forces both disengaged there. They don't want to lose all of their shiny new Tech 2 tanks to each other, and of course Morax not wanting to push there because that is going to leave a reclaim field really close to Yudi's expansion, and that would definitely go Yudi's way. And if there's anything that he wants to do, he needs to not give any mass to Yudi at this point. Alright, he's managed to get rid of that point defense. He does have a good number of pillars left here, and it looks like mostly Tech 1 with a bit of Tech 2 in the mix. Well, actually, no, there's a good number of Rhinos in there now for Yudi. Each Rhino being worth well more than a pillar. So I would actually put the advantage down in this corner here in terms of raw firepower in Yudi's favor at the moment. But what is this? Another upgrade. So there is a T2 upgrade going on here from Morax. He's probably thinking about getting some Tech 2 point defense up on this hill to try and do some area denial. But he is actually really at risk from all those Rhinos. Those guys could push in right now and cause all sorts of damage. It must be a case of not being aware that the AC was vulnerable. That's the only reason for Yudi not to get in there and try and cause a bit of damage to that commander. Maybe even force a cancel on that upgrade. And if a cancel right now with the lack of resources that Morax has, that would be doubly expensive. It looks like the air game has very, very little featuring so far in this match. Both these guys putting some interceptors together. We've got a chunk of them sitting up there just parked and awaiting orders, and we've got a whole lot up here for Morax. I think the numerical advantage would slightly go in Yudi's favor, but neither of these guys really pushing the air game. We have not seen very many bombers out since very early in the game. We certainly haven't seen any Tech 2 bombers. Are we seeing any Tech 2 air upgrades? Well, no, we aren't, but we are seeing a Tech 3 land upgrade there, so that is going to be pushing loyalists out. That's going to be very difficult for Morax to contend with, and I don't see any Tech 2 air, so it is definitely land in this match here, and a transport. That is interesting. That is a bit premature for Morax, trying to bring that transport of engineers in to claim the area, especially with the number of Rhinos floating about. That was not ever going to work. And did that transport survive? Yes, it actually did survive from the interceptors, because there is some flak in the mix here from Morax. Morax just about completed on that T2 upgrade. There we go. We've got T2 done. He's immediately going to throw down a radar so he can see what's going on. He must have been pretty blind up until this point. And was that a triad going down? It sure is. So he's going to get some area control with the range on that T2 point defense and try and keep everything away. Now it looks like Yudi is wanting to force an air engagement here. I think he does have the superior numbers, and as long as he doesn't get caught behind by Morax, he will be able to take care of it. And we can see all of those orange fighters getting blasted out of the sky. That is not going well for Morax at all. That will actually open up the way for a bombing run from Yudi if he wants to invest that way, but he's actually down on eco, down to 90 mass per tick, so losing this expansion down here has made a dent in his eco and has equalized it a little bit with Morax, who's up to 75, so he's trying to get a bit closer, but still, in terms of total mass that these guys have at their disposal, 78k for Yudi to only 63 for Morax. That is a serious differential. That's a large number of units if you want to count it all out. Alright, we've had more engagements up the top and the left here, but neither of these guys able to make a breakthrough. I hear gunships. Where do I hear gunships? No, I don't hear gunships. I hear Wagner's, I think. No, I hear rhinos. That's what it is. Okay, so the army from the top left thinking about pushing forward again from Morax, but well, look at the spacing on that. He really needs to get those guys clumped up a lot better than that. At the current rate, they'll just walk in one by one and get mowed down by the front line of Rhinos, and that'll never work very well at all. Morax thinking about what to do next. I'm not sure exactly what his plan is here. He could be thinking about doing a PD creep all the way up to the base, but that's going to be very, very painful to do, especially now that there are T3 units, and it looks like Yudi actually not opting for the Loyalists, he's going to go straight for bricks. So those guys are going to be very, very powerful. The only problem that he's going to run into is if he fires them across the left hand, well, across the bottom to the right hand from the left side, he is going to run into the ACU, and the ACU's ability to overcharge those bricks, that could be very, very costly for Yudi in the first stages until he can force that ACU out of there. So if he can get enough air coverage to make Morax withdraw his ACU, or just get a sheer volume of T2 and T3 units enough to run over the top of this ACU, then he will be able to make use of them. But bringing them in one by one at this early stage of T3, that is going to be a very tall order to actually make use of them. Alright, we have got a much better use of them up here. They are going to pop up out of the water because, of course, bricks are amphibious, and while that is a rude awakening for Morax, who may not have seen the T3 upgrade. I'm sure he will have, but he was not expecting those bricks there, and these pillars are just running in terror. They are running for their lives back to their base, but I don't think it's going to help them because the bricks have got massive, massive range, and they're just going to absolutely mow those guys down. In fact, the range on those bricks could just slowly move in. Now that they've got all of these pillars trapped, they could just move in ever so slowly, taking out the lead pillar and point defense as they go, and that would be absolutely no opposition at all. So, wow, Yudi looking very, very strong on the left here with those bricks. I think that'll easily be a victory for him, and that's going to put Morax in a precarious position because he's invested a lot in this push down the bottom here, and he really doesn't want to have to give that up and back away. But he is going to have to start diverting as much as he can to the top left just to stop his main base from being destroyed. And we have got a Percival. There was a transport came in with a single Percival, so that will be a great help indeed. But is it enough at this point? A single Percival with all of those pillars taking on the bricks and all of the rhinos. Well, we've got a second Percy. That is a nice move there, bringing those in on transport. He is using the assist on the factory to get them all in. Or is that a... No, it is an assist on the factory to get those Percivals into position. So that's going to give him the ability to reach back out and try and do some damage to those bricks. We can see the brick just massively dropping in HP every time one of those bolts lands. Those are very, very high alpha strikes from the Percivals. But meanwhile, all of the strikers, well, I should say pillars, are taking fire from the bricks while that is happening. But those bricks having to withdraw, and there are actually enough rhinos there. Each one of these is pretty beefy and has a decent amount of HP, and he does not want to bring those Percivals up into the range of that. That is going to make absolute mincemeat of them. Even though they can take out the bricks in just a couple of hits, they are still going to be absolutely overwhelmed. There is way, way too much firepower there, and nothing left to stop them. A single PD and a few pillars is nowhere near enough, and that's going to drop his eco down again by a good margin. He's sitting on 87 at the moment. That's going to drop down as those mexes get taken out. And Morax has actually run out of units on the bottom here as well, and it's going to force him into the water. He's down into the yellow with 11k HP. That is still a decent number, but he has been completely overrun, and now he's going to lose the other 8 mass per tick. Well, actually 10, including that mass extractor there. So he's going to drop even further in just a second, and there's nothing he can do. He's got no production over this side that's really going to be able to help. He's, well, it looks like he's actually going to keep bringing in Percivals by air, which is very nice as long as he can maintain air control. But if he loses that to Yudi, which he's just about to do, it does actually mean Yudi can start picking up those Percivals in the air en route and take them out very, very easily. So that is a risk now that Morax has to contend with, and it is not looking good if we count up the number of units up here, still mainly consisting of rhinos, but wow, we've got Janus bombers, and look at that carpet bombing doing a whole lot of damage to all those rhinos. So they will be able to do a bit of damage until the lack of air control comes back to bite him in the butt, and that's exactly what it's doing because the Janus bombers are going down. They've done a good amount of damage, but it's not going to be enough because there just isn't anything left in the arsenal for Morax. What have we got over here? We've got 2 T3 support factories, both madly trying to get Percivals out. He's been sending them southwards though because he is at a great risk of units coming through the south and taking out more of that eco. We've got another brick over here that he's trying to contend with, and that is going to very slowly die to... No, it's not going to die. It's going to turn around and take out that Riptide. so that it doesn't die, and it's going to just be able to wander through the base, causing all sorts of problems. So this is where Morax is likely to throw out the GG, because he is really running out of options. He has managed to get one more Percival, but just one Percival against a huge army, not a good place to be. If he was able to get a group of 10 or 12 Percivals all together, they might have a chance of pushing through all of those rhinos. They are very tanky, they got very high alpha damage, and they could do it, but he just does not have the numbers. Not at all. And now Yudi is starting to bring the rest of his forces around the bottom, so Morax is going to back up. He's going to try and make some kind of last stand here. There is a point defense, but there is just a single Percy and a couple of T2 tanks. That's really not going to cut it. He's constantly chasing down this brick, but look how many kills. There's 10 kills on that brick, and it's barely taken a scratch, and it is going to keep on just killing until, of course, that ACU, if it can catch up with it, then it'll be able to overcharge. Assuming there's overcharge, yes, looking at the board, we can see 9.4k max storage for Morax. And actually Yudi not having overcharge, but that's not really a problem for him because his ACU is not in combat at all. Alright, we've got the ACU coming in range, and boom, down goes that brick. So Morax finally being able to dispatch that, but it has cost him a great deal of units. It's cost him that mass extractor that he doesn't want to lose. Still managing to sit on 73 mass per tick though, so he hasn't lost a huge amount of ground. But the unfortunate part for him is that Yudi has gained a lot of ground up to 137, and it looks like he's having power trouble though. If he can get that under control, I'm sure his eco will be a bit higher than that, but 137 is at least what he is able to put out right now. And we've got more bricks coming to take out the center, so Morax just finding himself under fire from every single side imaginable, and not really having anything left to be able to combat it. Are we still looking at T2 factories in here? We are. They've been, well, they were paused for a second. They're pausing on and off. That's interesting. Is Yudi using some kind of economy-based modification? I don't know. That is awfully suspicious looking, those factories bouncing on and off with their pausing. But it doesn't really make too much of a difference now because there are way too many rhinos for these guys to deal with. They will make a stand. They're forming a line and they're going to stand their ground. No, they're not. They're going to run away. Run away! And they will not be able to use their superior range to finish off the rhinos because the rhinos are already within hitting distance. That's going to push all the way through. That will threaten the main base. We've also got all these expansion pieces cleared out. There's bricks in that mix as well. Just a continual use of Janus though, trying to do as much damage as he can. I love the look of that napalm, but it doesn't do a whole lot of damage against a single unit. Although with a clump of units like this, it does a reasonable job. I'm not quite sure how Morax was able to continue these bombing runs with the lack of air control, but what is this? The bricks are about to finish off the ACU. Nothing that he can do about it, and that is the end of that. There was no way to do more overcharges. He just didn't have enough energy production to pump out overcharge rounds and finish off those bricks. Alright, there we go. So we got to see Morax go down. I think there will be probably a few people happy that for some reason everyone loves to see Morax die. I have no idea why. But that is what happened. So congratulations to Yudi. He progresses on to the next round, keeping his hopes and dreams alive of qualifying for the Legend of the Stars tournament, which is of course sponsored by Legend of the Stars. If you want to go and find out more about that tournament, jump on to the Forged Alliance Forever forums and look at the tournament section. The dates and times and winners and everything, they are all in that. So go and check it out. I will sign off with this one, and we'll see you in the next match.